Great. Good deal. Well, good morning, everyone. Today is the 26th of January, unbelievably already. Joined here by my co-host, Kimberly Ivory. She's kind of in the background. She's going to be helping with the questions and stuff so that I can stay on a roll. And it actually doesn't take me 2 hours to say what we need to talk about this morning. But we're pretty excited. We're gonna have a format here that's basically some housekeeping. Then we're going to talk about some local numbers, meaning Nashville and benchmark numbers. Then we're going to talk about national numbers. And then we're going to move over into the comprehensive review of buyer agency. As Kimberly had intimated there in the beginning conversations that we were going back and forth on, we have been doing a series of trainings on buyer agency this month, the month of January here at Benchmark. And I hope you were able to catch some of those. I will tell you where to go find them here in just a minute if you did miss them, because we did record all of them. And we are recording this also. We're not going to release it to the general public. We're going to put it on the Benchmark Dash under Agent Resources. So it is a resource for Benchmarkians to help you, and you can refer back to it. We will actually have this slide deck also posted there along with a video recording so that you can refer back to it, and hopefully it will help you in your business. That's the sole focus here, is to help you in your business. That's why we do these things. And one of those ways that we do that is by teaming up with Momentum Title. We've got some really good offerings with that company. It is a sister company. First of all, it's just for Benchmark. Your first closing is free. Your personal home is free, and that personal home free is all the time. Now, if you're an investor and you're doing one-offs, you're going to have to pay 50%, but it is a discount. It's not free. And there's only one closing fee, $500 credit for veterans and first responders. And then if you have a file, you can send it either to your processor that's in the local office, and we have one pretty much in every Benchmark office. But if you don't want to deal with that, then you can just email it to processing at Momentum Title. I think Ryan Ford is on the call, and I'm not sure that the way we've got this set up that I could bring him in, but I did want to point out something. And he can chime into chat if he wants to add information to that. But we found a discovery, or some of our affiliates discovered something last week, is that you can actually submit your earnest money to Momentum via their website. It uses a company called Earnest, and Earnest is a national app where it handles funds. And it is very convenient, particularly when you have a week like we did last week, where everybody was shut down and you couldn't drive for 3 or 4 days. That's very important. Also, if you need title quotes are available there on their website. So if you're in the middle of trying to do a net sheet for a seller in a discussion of an offer, there you go. All you got to do is log in and pull that up, and you can get the a title quote to plug in that will be pretty accurate. So if you have a question, reach out to Momentum Title. There's 6 attorneys on staff. If you have a problem, they can always there to help you with the deal that they're working on. They're always there to advise you, to counsel you, and happy to do that. All of their processors, I can't say enough good things about their processors. These are professionals. There are no rookies in this crowd, and they are there standing by to help you with your transactions. An important point that they will never tell you, but I will tell you, is that the revenue we receive from Momentum Title does not go in Phillip's pocket. It goes in Benchmark's pocket, and it helps pay for the free tools that you see on the screen there. Those tools cost money, lots of money, and the revenue we receive from Momentum Title helps pay for that. So your patronage is appreciated there. Benchmark Dash, if you're here, you were able to register through the training and events calendar there on the Benchmark Dash. And then we also have the section here. This page goes way on down, but the section I want to point out to you is the agent resources that you see there, which is the big red V. And when you click on that, it takes you to a very long page of lots of information and all the good stuff that you need about Benchmark. Our office, our NAIDS number, our office numbers, who to reach out to, the recordings of this, the recordings of a lot of our training is on there. You can see that in the lower right-hand corner. The training button has lots of information, how to submit your docs to paperless pipeline, all that kind of good stuff is there. That resource is available to you 24/7, 365. So use it. Go there first. Also want to talk about the TAP program, the Talent Attraction Program, which has been going on for about 60 days now. It is ending in 5 days. So you had the opportunity for each new affiliate that you recruit for us or help us recruit that meets these certain qualifications you see on the screen. You have the opportunity to earn $1,000 cash. That new recruit will actually earn $500 in a brand conversion, a marketing package on the Bullseye Hub. That should be able to pay for their signs and their business cards. So that's free money. Now, if they don't qualify for the 8 transactions, I have for some reason forgotten to keep saying this, but we still have the $300 incentive for every new affiliate that you associate with us, or you lead to Bo Zebak or lead to your principal broker. After they've been here for 60 days, you'll still get $300 regardless of the number of transactions if that principal broker decides they're worthy of holding their license here. We're always making sure that we have certain qualifications that we try to adhere to. Also want to celebrate here that our Bowling Green office is now open. Cole Melcher is the principal broker there. You can see his email address is benchmarkrealtyky.com instead of tn.com, because people in Kentucky were getting offended that we had the abbreviation for Tennessee in our email URL, but it points back to the same place, and it's the same company. It's just a convenience identification with the local market. That operation is now fully loaded, fully operational. If you find yourself in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and you need a place to work, your key card works in that door you see on the screen. Your key card works in the copier that's inside. Your key card works to get in and do business. And of course, it is fully equipped, just like every other Benchmark office. We have a bullpen area, we have a place to work, we have conference rooms, and you have a very highly qualified principal broker there to ask questions of if you have a question. And it's just off of 65 there in Bowling Green, right in the main drag, Scottsville Road. That's the main drag that comes off the interstate. So if you're in that area, and even if you don't need to work, stop by and see them. We're now up to many agents that have cross-border licensures, and we have at least 12 that have just Kentucky licensures. So in that office for Kentucky responsibilities, we're probably close to about 35 agents now already in just like 60 days. So wonderful start, wonderful start. Want to mention the preferred vendors page on our website. Any vendor that you know of that is worthy of advertising to our consumer and to our affiliates, please direct them to that page on our website. They can click the button that I have circled there that says apply here. We have a fee for that on a monthly basis, but it's not much. It's not as much as it used to be. So we're trying to expand those vendors as much as we can to make sure that we have a good offering for our consumer and for you, our affiliate. So go check it out. I want to also point out the financial wellness program. We introduced this in a test kitchen about 5.5 months ago. The test kitchen consists of Benchmark Realty and 2 other sister companies that are part of the United Real Estate Group Holdings Network. Why did we do this? Well, it's pretty straightforward. It's because we care about your financial wellness. It's not just how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. Concerning facts you see there on the screen, real estate agents make a lot of money, but typically they are deep into commission advances and deep into credit cards to fill the gap because your income does this, right? So you got to fill that gap and level it out, and you turn either to credit cards or to commission advances typically. Consumer debt right now is exceeding $18 trillion, and it's increasing at a rate of nearly $1 trillion per year. And we're talking about not just real estate agents, we're talking about consumers in the United States now have $18 trillion worth of debt, and credit card debt alone exceeds $1 trillion. It's very troubling. According to the American Bankruptcy Institute, the #1 cause of bankruptcy in America today is medical debt. And you combine that with the fact that over 33% of real estate agents do not have healthcare insurance. And we said, we have got to do something to help with this. So we did. We rolled out, we'll tell you about just a second here, but here's some more facts that you see on the screen. Credit card balances are now at an all-time high. You can see the chart going up to the right there. It's higher than it has ever been in the history of credit cards. Credit card delinquencies are on the rise. You can see it here, the top line number, how it's rising. So as I said, we had to do something about it. And with the support of United Real Estate, we have developed a program called Financial Wellness. And it has 5 basic columns. The 4 columns are what we have today. The 5th column will come later. You can see them on the screen. Column #1, or pillar #1, is your 100% commission model that we're on. You cannot maximize your earnings, your net earnings, any more than by being with Benchmark Realty in a model like ours. The second one is financial education, learning how to handle money, learning what money means, learning how to plan, how to get out of debt, how to save for the future. And once you save for the future, learning how to, or putting you with a professional financial advisor to help you maximize the long-term portion of that. Then column number 4 is the real healthcare insurance provided through Clearwater benefits we just talked about. Coming later in 2024, we're going to have a program launched, a 503c charitable reinvestment program. We're calling it the United Good Works Foundation for hardship situations or scholarships. We're not really sure on the formation of that yet. We're kind of thinking that it will be more oriented toward kids, high school seniors who need money for college. They can apply to this foundation and get a grant of some sort. So we are hoping to launch that in mid to latter part of 2024. Where does the money come from on that? The money comes from the insurance program because we receive a stipend there. And right now, even as we are talking, those stipends are going into a savings account, and that savings account is accumulating to be used for charitable reinvestment. It's not being diluted into our P&L. We've been very clear and very intentional on that. So let's talk about pillar number 1. You know this. You're here already. You've heard the pitch. Pillar number 1 is the 100% commission program. And you have many options, and we are adding many more options later, I expect. But the next one is Smart Dollar. That's pillar number 2 of Financial Wellness Program. Smart Dollar, you've been hearing about since July when we launched it here. Those who are not with Benchmark, though, have not heard about pillar number 1 yet because we haven't launched this whole program at the United network of 22,000, 23,000 affiliates yet. It's an app. It's a computer program. It helps you learn how to track money. It helps you learn how to get out of debt. It helps you to understand how money works. And it is invaluable as proof by the fact that in a mere 5.5 months, the people that have participated, 432 users of the test kitchen of about 3,500 potential users, already have a $406,000 turnaround, financial turnaround. That is debt eliminated, as you can see over here in the left, or you can see right here, total debt eliminated 188,000, total savings added 218,000. It's because people are beginning to understand money, and that is a key component to retaining money and building true wealth for your family's future. Some interesting side notes. The tool teaches you how to handle money. Obviously, we take a survey at the beginning when you first join the program. We take surveys throughout the program, and these are couple of key points here I want to point out. How stressed are you about your personal finances? In the beginning, 28% were feeling overwhelming stress and 11% were not. I'm sorry, 28% in the beginning, 11% now. So stress level goes down, equals happier people, equals happier life, equals more productive life. How many people feel no stress? In the beginning, 22% said they felt no stress. Now 28% say they feel stressed. Why is that? Because they're understanding money. They're understanding how money works and the importance of being able to manage it instead of letting your money manage you. And then how confident are you? This one I'm particularly proud of. How confident are you you'll be able to retire when you want to? In the beginning, none said they were confident. And now 11% say they're very confident. Again, because they understand money. And I want to stress this, that your information, your personal information, your banking information is 100% confidential. We cannot see it. United cannot see it. It's up to you. The system has all sorts of checks and balances built within it. They have spent millions of dollars ensuring the system is secure and there are firewalls in place. So you want to go participate that, and you can click the button on the Benchmark dash and join it today. The next step is creative planning. Creative planning is a financial advisory firm that does a whole lot more than just help you manage your money. They can help you with your trusts. They can help you with your estate planning. They can help you with your wills. If you need to set up an LLC, they can help you. There's the contact information on the screen. We cannot really act as a filter for them because of fiduciary responsibilities or regulations in the United States, but we can direct you to them. And there you see the contact information on the screen there. They want to make sure you have at least $50,000 accumulated before they engage the process, but they can help get you there as well. So you want to, if you don't want to write this down, then reach out to me and I'll give you the contact information. We make nothing on that. We are not financial advisors. We don't have any benefit from this. This is 100% to help you. In fact, Smart Dollar, we pay out the ear for to help you. It's not free. These are not free programs. You cannot get Smart Dollar on your own. Okay. You cannot reach creative planning on your own except through a referral like somebody like us. So you want to make sure that you write these numbers and names down and participate in these programs. Pillar number 4 is healthcare solutions that we brought to you. United Real Estate Group has brought to you over the past few months. We kind of had a little push on this during the open enrollment period in the end of the year. We kind of relaxed on it now. We'll have another push on it in March, but wanted to make sure that you understood and know that it's available. And why is this important? Because the average family's healthcare insurance cost rose nearly $24,000 in 2023. That's up 7%. And it's the largest cost in 11 years. If you don't have healthcare insurance, you're putting your family at risk. And this is a viable option to do it. 30% of you, 33% of you actually don't have healthcare insurance. So you need to look at this program strongly. Health share plans, PPO plan insurance, major insurance, supplemental, that's dental, vision, accident, critical illness. And they can also, if they say, okay, our plans are not for you, let's get you on the marketplace plans, or let's look at your plan and do an analysis and say, does it make sense for you to be on one of ours versus what else is out there? They will have an honest conversation with you. Amaze Health is something they've just introduced, and it is a healthcare coaching program where you can get to learn about nutrition, learn about exercise, learn about all sorts of things. It's all part of the program. All you have to do is visit United Real Estate Group healthcare.com, ureghealthcare.com. You see it circled right there on the screen. Get a quote, book a call. They'll walk you through it. No commitment, no sales pitch. They're not going to put you on a list of auto dollars. They're not going to text you ad nauseum. It's to help you if you want it. There was a good deal of confusion back during the open enrollment period of United Healthcare versus United Healthcare. Okay. This one is ours. This one is not. So let's just make that clear. The United Healthcare that you see on the right side of your screen there is not what we're talking about. The one on the left is what we're talking about. And it will click on, if you want to go to the website, ureghealthcare.com and book you an appointment. I recommend you do it today, even if it's just for a comparison of your current healthcare plans. By the way, you can enroll in this anytime throughout the year. There is no such thing as open enrollment, right? The government healthcare plans and some of the healthcare companies devised that, much like many of the merchants in London in the 1800s devised the Christmas holiday to sell product. Open enrollment is a myth, and you can be enrolled in it at any time. So I want to be clear on that. So those are the 5 pillars that we've been talking about, and you'll hear more about those coming soon as we flesh them out more. We'll be rolling out this entire program to all of the United Real Estate organization later on in a couple of months. We're very excited about it. Our team, the United team, lots of people have been working very hard to bring these benefits to you. And it's because we have a focus on the whole person instead of viewing an agent as a ATM that throws off cash for the brokerage. We are concerned about your health, your welfare, and how you are going to retire. And I don't think that many other brokerages are, in my personal opinion. All right, enough with the sales stuff and the housekeeping. Let's get to some numbers. Now we get to the nitty gritty. And you don't have to write any of this stuff down. Like I said earlier, all of this is recorded. All of this is going to be on the agent resources section, so you can refer back to it, including this PowerPoint presentation there in PDF format. So if you want to pull some of these, extract some of these slides and share them with your client in a listing presentation or in a buyer rep presentation, you can do that. That's the whole point of it. It's to give you ammunition and tools to help you with your business. All right. We did not have one of these meetings since middle of October. So let's start with October numbers and talk about the year as we went through it in 2023. And you can see there on the screen how our October 23 stacked up to October 22. The main things that we always like to point out are this section right here is how did Benchmark do compared to the market in transaction count numbers. You can see that we were down 8.5%, while at the same time the market was down 6.0%. Inventory at the moment then was down, agent count was up. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these pretty fast here. Same thing in November. November, we kind of leveled out. And if you remember, we talked about this early on, that I suspicion what we would see is a decline throughout 2023 and then kind of a leveling off. They call it the trough, if you want to speak in economic terms. And you can see that here, that we, Benchmark, actually leveled off with 2022's November in 2023's November. The market kept going south, though, down 4.4%. And inventory, again, was down a lot, actually. A lot of people, that's caused mostly by people pulling their homes off the market for the holidays. We always see that little dip in inventory. But our agent count continued to grow. Our affiliate count continued to grow. So we're very thankful and appreciative of that. And then December 2023 snapshot, we usually have a little pop at the end of the year. And interestingly enough, we did not have that pop this year. The market kept going south, but we did too. So that you can see the total numbers there. And then you can see that inventory took a serious dive month over month, even as the holidays continue to increase. And the way the calendar worked this year, if you go back and look, it really sucked. That's the only, and that's a professional economic term that I just used there, but it's the only way I could describe it, to say that it really stunk, because we had 2 4-day weekends almost, right? Boom, boom. So we only had about 2 weeks of productivity in December. And that's very unfortunate, but it's the truth. We still grew our affiliate count, and we're grateful for that as well. So how did we do total year to date at the end of December? And these are the numbers that you see on your screen for 2023. You see 2022 versus 2023. Our gross sales were down 17.9. Our GCI was down 20.2. Transaction count down 16.2, while the market was down 16.7. And our average sales price, this is our average sales price, not the market's average sales price, was down 2%. Again, this is where I really focus in. How did we do compared to the market? Because it's kind of like a factor out there that you can't really impact. So the only real comparison you have is the market. How did you do compared to the market? And we did better than the market in 2023. So congratulations on that. All of these numbers are comprised internally. You can see on the screen there a spreadsheet that'll make your eyes cross, but it's what I do. It's breaking it down, tracking our numbers all the way back to 2017. You know, past performance, no guarantee of future performance, but you can kind of tell where you're going by how you've been in the past. So that's what that is comprising there on the screen, but a picture tells 1,000 words. For gross sales, 2017 all the way up to 2023, what is the comparison? You can see the blue line there at 2023 is actually below 2021 and 2022 and 21, 22, and 20. So we're below that. We are back down to just above 2019 on gross sales, as is the market. We just talked about that. Commissions followed suit, right in that same category, nudging right against 2019. And you can see, remember I said earlier about how we usually had a little pop at the end of the year, and we didn't have it this year. And you can see that activity right here, how there's always this little uptick at the end of the year. 2018, we did not have one, but 2017 we did. But all the other years we had a little uptick, and we just found that absent this year. And I think that was directly attributable to the interest rates uncertainty. Transaction count is where we really got hammered. Again, so did the market. And you can see that we are now actually below 2017 on transaction count at the end of 2023. So the question is, what does 2024 look like? And we'll talk about that in just a second. So those are the numbers for Benchmark. Let's talk about the national numbers now. A couple of types here, the leading and the lagging indicators. We've talked about that in the past. You know, the lagging indicators are things that have happened in the past that help you predict the future. And then the leading indicators are those that you believe are coming will help you predict the future as well. So December home sales stunk. That's the only way I know how to say it. Annualized, if every month in the year had been like December, we would have finished the year at 3.78 million. That's down 1% month over month and down 6.2% year over year. And I've drawn a red line there so you can see how that levels out from December of 21. By the way, let me say 21 and 22 were complete. And you've heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. They were complete aberrations. They were outliers. They were bizarre situations going on with the money supply, bizarre situations going on with the economy, bizarre situations going on recovering from the economic lockdowns, the COVID lockdowns. All of those things came into play to create 2 years of just bizarre behavior in the marketplace. Really, the last half of 2020 through the middle of 2022 were the bizarre periods. They were complete outlier times. But let's look at, you look at something up close, it looks terrible. Let's back up a little bit. You can see what we're seeing here, that seasonally adjusted existing home sales for all of 2023 nationwide, 4.09 million, just barely above 4 million. And that's the worst quarter since the last half of 2010, when we were coming out of the housing recession. And it's the worst year total since 1995. So I want to give you congratulations for surviving the hardest recession in this economy since the housing recession of 2008. So if you're still here and you're still listening to this and you're a practitioner, you're about to catch the upswing. And I want to stress that we have hit the trough. We will, from this point forward, begin to come out of the trough, albeit slow, but we will begin to come out of the trough. And I'll show you some stats on that here in just a second. But congrats on surviving a deep recession in our industry. Median national home sales price was actually up 4.4%. We have now returned to normal, what I would call normal appreciation rates on homes in America. And you can see what I've drawn there on the screen, that in December of 2022 versus December 2023, and the difference was 4.4% with a national median home price. A median number is the number in the middle. That's not the average. That's the median number. It's the number in the middle. The year over year, what that looks like. Home prices are considerably off their peaks, but are still up 4.4%. This is a 5-year view. You can kind of see, okay, so, home prices are rising, home prices are high, but they're beginning to moderate. You see the trend lines are kind of not doing this wild stuff anymore. They're kind of doing the steady eddy rise and steady eddy decline. You're going to have an ebb and flow. Even back down here, you have an ebb and flow, but it's more of a different level. We may remain at this level for quite some time, but it's not going to be these wild swings that you saw back here in 2022 and in the beginning of 2023. Interesting data to look at. Moving on there, the pending home sales. This is good news. Pending home sales. This is number of sales, not prices, was up 4.4% here. You can see, again, the wild swings that we had here, the bizarre behavior of the market, is beginning to kind of even out instead of this wild up and down. And that's exactly what you want to see. New listings tick up also. They are now, they're still below pre-pandemic lockdown levels, but the seasonally adjusted averages are beginning to come back up to where they should be and where we can all make a living. And this chart actually goes back to 2012, all the way back to February of 2012. So what is that, 11 years, 10 years? It gives you quite a good picture. This is through November of 23. So that's more good news. Up 0.1% month over month and up 2.7% year over year. And that helps increase your inventory, which, as we've been talking about all along, inventory is a huge problem. Everybody's favorite topic is the mortgage rates. This is even better news. And you can see that it ticked down. This chart is from last night, updated 125. So you can see that it actually ticked down, ticked up a little bit, meaning that it was a good number. When you see green, it's good. When you see red, it's bad. That's how it goes. So the big question that I get a lot of is why are rates moderating when the Fed hasn't done anything? And that's a good question. You've heard me say it before that consumers and investors, they can stand high rates, they can stand low rates. What they cannot stand is uncertainty in rates. And so what we have seen over the last few months is a beginning to a feeling of base rate certainty, meaning that the Fed funds rate, which dictates the price of the 10-year Treasury, which 10-year Treasuries dictate the price of the 30-year mortgages, price based upon 30-year mortgages. As that begins to stabilize, they can build in, investors can accept a lower margin of error, meaning that they have a better vision of stability so they can reduce their buffer, if you will, in what they want to charge for money. And that's what has brought the rates down, even though the base number that affects all of this, the Fed funds rate, has not effectively changed. Because it has not changed, then the 10-year Treasury comes down and the 30-year mortgage comes down. And then also the other side of that is that because rates are now higher overall in general, the investors are more receptive. They want those mortgage-backed securities now, as opposed to the ones that were 3% or 2% or 4%. They want the 7%, 6% mortgage-backed securities. So that is what has affected your mortgage rates. It had nothing to do with the Fed. It's all about market pricing that has brought it down. And I had a conversation a few months ago with a mortgage banker, or a banker, not a mortgage banker, but he was the one to argue with me. He said the Fed rate doesn't have any effect on 10-year Treasury, which doesn't have any effect on 30-year mortgage. Well, honey, I beg to differ. And let me show you this graph right here. You can see the green is 10-year Treasury. The dark green is a 30-year fixed rate mortgages. And you can see that that consistent buffer of margin increases in times of instability and gets narrower in times of stability. Okay, it becomes more consistent. They can predict what it is. So anyway, I hope that helps. That narrow band, or the consistency of the narrow band. And again, this just goes through 2023, mid 23. So you really, October 23, there it is right there. So you really don't have a good feel for what the future is going to be by looking at this, but I'm trying to explain the principle of why rates have come down, even though the Fed has not changed the base Fed funds rate. I hope that's understandable. Some more good news. The people who have low interest rate, the percentage of mortgages that are lower interest rate is now declining, meaning that people are beginning to move in the market. They're beginning to move around out there. That means they're more likely to come back into the market. And from March of last year to the end of Q3 2023, each of these numbers has declined by 3 to 5%. So the pool of people who are gloating about having a sub 3% mortgage is declining. It's shrinking. The pool of people that are gloating about having a sub 4% mortgage is declining, and so on and so forth. What does that mean? That means increase in inventory in the future, because people are moving around. It's transactional activity. This is another really good positive here, is that the average length of home ownership has now fallen back to 2011 levels. For a while there, it was up around 13 years. Now it's back down to 5.76 years. So why is this important for you? Well, if you have a database, you can now say that the people in that database on average are going to move every 5.76 years, as opposed to moving every 13 years, which means your database can actually be smaller and you will have more activity in that database. If you sat through my business planning class, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because we hit on that topic really good. Trying to figure out how you're going to achieve the goals you want. You begin with the end in mind. And one of the first things you want to do is realize, how big does your database need to be if everybody in that database on average is going to move 5.76 years versus every 11 to 13 years. Important key elements in business planning for sure. But anyway, bottom line, this is a good thing because it means increased market activity. Market activity is also showing up in the showing measures. This is from showing time, as you can see, normalized the first calendar week of January. You can see that it goes through December, the red line right here. And look at this pattern. Does this pattern not look familiar, right? So seasonality impacts, of course, but the patterns are very familiar to 2022 and 2021. We're kind of glad to see that, because that means people are moving around. Home price are increasing still slightly, but they're calming down, as we talked about earlier, 3.35%. And then in Nashville, the indexes are leading to stability. This is the home value index on the right. This is the month-over-month tracking on the right. I'm sorry, home price on the left, home tracking on the right, month-over-month change. You can see that it had this huge run up, and now it's kind of doing this. You know, a month, 2 months does not a year make, does not a career make, but still the trends are indicating positively. And that's what I'm trying to express to you, that these indicate trends of stability. Inventory indexes are the same thing. They're beginning to point to stability also. You see these wide swings and wide drop-offs are absent in 2023. It's like steady eddy. And if you can reach stability, equilibrium in the marketplace, it will take care of itself and it will improve itself out. And inventory is beginning to show us that. And it also shows up in the sold, get my clicker going here. It also shows up in the sold above list price, also points to stability. You don't have as many bidding wars. That's what this means. Okay. You had a whole bunch of wild swings up, down, left, way, sideways, and you had a little peak during the seasonalities. Summer selling season, you always get a little frothy, but overall, it's nearly a straight line. This black line 2023 all the way through the end of November. It's nearly a straight line. This is for Nashville. Okay. This is local market stuff. This is not national stuff. This is local market stuff, these charts that I'm showing you. So it's stuff to be aware of. And then I showed you this earlier in the year. So this is kind of a prediction stuff, and we're going to have more prediction later on how I'm going to conclude the whole presentation. But the main point that I'm showing you here is that the Mortgage Bankers Association, Fannie Mae, and NAR all got together. And I showed you this earlier in the year, and they were predicting 2023 would have 4.3 million units sold. Well, obviously we didn't. We had 4.09, so they were missed there. They were saying 24 is coming back and then 25 is coming back. And NAR was the only one willing to reach out to 2025 at the time that survey was taken. Every one of them, though, revised it downwards from earlier in the year. Again, in MBA, the Mortgage Bankers Association, Fannie Mae, this is NAR prediction, and then this is the group average, the red. And you notice that in the beginning of the year, they were predicting high stuff. In the end of the year of 2023, they're predicting lower stuff for the future. So predictions modify as we go along. Show you one last chart, and then we'll get on to the buyer's agency stuff. This is forecasted for Q1 of 24, fourth quarter of 24. And you can see the trend line. This gray area, everything in the gray area is a forecast. This is where we've been. This is where everybody believes we're going to go. So just a little tidbits to share with you there. And now we'll get on to the subject of the, that's the news you can use if you choose to use it. If you don't, that's okay too. Again, we're going to have all this recorded. We're going to have this in PDF format on the Agent Resources Center as soon as the presentation is over, or shortly after the presentation is over. Excuse me, I had to take a drink there. Let's get to the meat of the matter. We have a changing situation out here in the marketplace with buyer agency. We've been focusing on it all month. We're going to kind of put a bow on that now and try to help you with the overall concept and idea of it. And to be clear, we are not just talking about buyer agency. We're going to talk to listing agents too, because they are two sides of the same coin. And the name of that coin is fiduciary responsibility. Okay. They are interlocked. Even though you say, well, I'm a listing agent, I can clue out now or tune out now. Don't you do it, because you need to understand both sides of this. We want to put a disclaimer out here, and I'm going to read it to you so it's in the record. The purpose of this training is to help our affiliated licensees in setting up their own business as independent contractors, which you are. We're trying to help you. We are not attorneys, licensed insurance agents, or CPAs. If you need legal or professional assistance in these areas, if your clients need legal or professional assistance in these areas, have them consult one. We will not discuss commission percentages or offer guidance on specific fees during any part of this training, because there is no such thing as a standard, air quotes, standard fee or commission structure in our industry. Remember, commissions and fees are always negotiable and always must be transparent. The opinions and views expressed here are based on the speaker's experience in the local real estate market and may or may not affect the opinions of Benchmark Realty or our parent company, United Real Estate. We've had a whole series of trainings. Kimberly alluded to this in the beginning of the conversation. We've had a whole series of trainings all month long. Started out with Kathy Moore, Navigating Buyer Agency. On January 12th, Matt Ward talked about exploring the Tennessee Buyer Representation Agreement. And then we had a panel discussion with Meredith Smith and John Sexton on the 19th about winning strategies of how to get the buyer rep agreement signed and how to deal with buyers in general. Very appreciative of these people for donating their time and efforts and energies for this. And they are the best of the best, as is all of Benchmark. We are the best of the best. You can find their presentations, and those discussions are recorded there on Benchmark-Agent Resources Training, which is in the lower left-hand corner, and then Zoom recordings. And you will see those discussions. There weren't any literature shared, so don't ask for it. Just go with what they showed you and create your own. We'll talk about that again here in just a second. So great big thank you to all of them. So why is this such a big focus now by our agency? Well, as you can see by the Lady of Justice in the upper right-hand corner of that picture, we have some lawsuits going on. And if you are unaware of these, I'm sorry, because they've been going on since 2019. The fairly big one that everybody heard about in the news was the Sitzer Burnett, and it resulted in a jury trial award verdicts of $1.8 billion. And since it's antitrust, the judge could very well treble that to 5.3 billion. That is still waiting to be the judge's opinion on that. It will not be issued until March. So despite what anybody may tell you, we don't know. And that's the bottom line on all of these cases. We don't know. It's kind of like the weather. Do you know what the weather's going to do in the next hour? No, you don't. There's no way for you to know. Same thing with these lawsuits. The next one is Mueller, 2019, certified as class action in 2023. Trial date is set for later in 2024. That's this year. No select, December 2020, no trial date yet. These three are class certified. They've been granted class action status, and they'll be tried under alleged violations of the Sherman Antitrust Act by the NAR participation rule, because of the NAR participation rule. So we'll talk about that in a second. Now, since that time, since the Sitzer verdict came down, there have been 16 additional lawsuits filed. So there are now a total of 20 lawsuits to be adjudicated. And you can see that the names and the filing dates there on your screen, 17 plus the others on the other screen. The first one here, Leader Batten 1, it was named Leader first, and then it became Batten 1. That's what you'll hear it from going forward. Those were already certified as class action, as I recall. I know the first three were, and I believe Batten 1 was as well. So what's the premise of all of these lawsuits? The general idea of most of them is, as you see on the screen, and this is verbiage directly from one of the lawsuits that we're not involved with. It's just direct verbiage. It essentially says, and I'm going to read it to you because it's a pretty good description. Plaintiffs and class members allege that the defendants have engaged or collaborated in anti-competitive practices. This conspiracy centers around the enforcement of an anti-competitive restraint that compels home sellers to provide an inflated fee to the broker representing the buyer of their properties, thus violating federal and state antitrust measures. NAR wields its regulatory authority to impose a rule known as the mandatory offer of compensation rule. This rule dictates that every property seller, when listing their home on MLS affiliated with a local NAR association, must have a sweeping, non-negotiable offer of compensation to buyer brokers. Well, we all know it's all negotiable, but that's what the verbiage in the lawsuit says. This conspiracy, there's that word again, has led to various illogical, harmful, anti-competitive effects, including A, requiring sellers to pay overcharges for services provided by buyer brokers to the buyer, B, maintaining, fixing, and stabilizing buyer broker compensation at levels that would not exist in a competitive marketplace, and C, promoting, steering, and actions that hinder innovation. So that's a lot of legalese, because it came straight out of a lawsuit that we're not even associated with. But here's the point. The belief is that because NAR requires us to be a NAR member and requires us to put every listing in the MLS that's controlled by NAR, that we have all colluded and conspired to increase home prices in America. Nobody on this call believes that to be true. However, the jury in the Sitzer verdict trial, or Sitzer Burnett trial, believed it to be true, and they've issued a verdict, and we'll see what the judge does with that, and we'll see what the appeals come is. One thing I want to stress to you, this is going to take years to work out. During that time, there will be changes in the industry. We don't know how it's going to work out. We don't know specifically what those changes are. I'm going to give you some clues and ideas of what I think they may be. But the main point is transparency and learning how to work with both the buyers and the listing agents. That's what we're trying to stress today. Need another drink. Once we have these lawsuits all worked out, then there's these two guys holding off in the shadows, the DOJ and the FTC. The DOJ has already sued NAR over similar situations. They're wrangling through that. And then the FTC was issued a executive order in July of 2021, executive order 14036, that said, you will investigate the residential real estate industry because the president who issued the executive order believes that it inflates home prices in America. Okay, so we've got a lot of work to do here. The point is, I want you guys to know what's going on in the background. Again, the weather analogy, it holds true. We can't impact that. We can't let that panic us. All we can do is focus on our training and getting better at what we do. And that's the point of this conversation. There's two fundamental skills that you're going to need to handle future change. On the buyer agent side, you must be willing and able to articulate your value to the buyer so that they get paid. Buyers agents get paid, even if the seller does not offer shared compensation. And there is a distinct possibility that one of these lawsuits may result in an injunction. The Sitzer-Burnett case, it's already before the judge. There's a distinct possibility that they may issue an injunction that outlaws guaranteed shared compensation. We don't know that, but we'll find out. So the way around that is being able to articulate your value proposition. And the other side of that coin is listing agents may see buyers begin to show up unrepresented, and you need to be knowledgeable and prepared to know how to deal with it. It all starts with your legal status. And I'm sorry I'm having a meltdown here. I've had a lot of discussion, a lot of talk in the last few days.
I was wondering if I needed to run over there and get you some water.
I got it. It's just running out of gas.
Okay.
Thank you. In Tennessee, there are 4 types of agency, right? Buyer agency, seller agency, designated agency, and dual agency. Unbelievably, is still legal in Tennessee. We do not practice it here at Benchmark, though. It's against our rules, so don't do it. Buyer agency, seller agency, you can go look them up, what they mean. But the bottom line is we practice designated agency here. Agency, and this is a confirmation form. You can see them all here in the middle. And you can also see the information here that said that notice by itself does not consolidate, does not create agency agreement or an agency relationship. Because until you execute a bilateral agreement, you are a facilitator, period. That is your native state in the absence of bilateral written agreement. That means signed by 2 parties. You're not an agent for the buyer or an agent for a seller. Your native state. And the part that you need to hone in on is that as a facilitator, counseling a buyer on the price, offer, terms, or other material discussions to benefit the buyer actually violates agency law. Do you hear me when I say that? Can you read that on the screen? You need to have the buyer agency agreement signed, buyer representation agreement signed before you discuss those things. But everything is governed by your bilateral agency agreement. Listing agreement, buyer rep agreement. You know, and here's the $64,000 question. You wouldn't list a home without a listing agreement, right? And why would you work with a buyer without a buyer rep agreement? They are 2 sides of the same coin, and that coin is called fiduciary relationship. These documents are equal in power. And they are equal in importance. You need to learn how to use them. As a buyer's agent, you've got to be able to explain how you earn your living. If the rules change, you've got to be able to explain what that means. You've got to be able to explain how you get paid. And this comment came in the other day that said the seller does not provide a buyer's agent comp. Will the buyer rep agreement then become insignificant? I just don't see buyers paying comp to their agents. There are all kinds of issues that could arise. VA loans, for example, regulations that will have to be changed. If shared compensation goes away, a tremendous segment of the US population is going to be negatively impacted. So this is a really big deal that we're talking about here, because it could fundamentally change society as we know it. But we don't want to get too far off into it, because you have protection. You have a process. You have the forms. You just have to learn how to use them. You have to learn how to articulate your value proposition, and you have to be willing to have the discussion on the front end. But the buyer rep agreement only becomes insignificant if you allow it. If you ignore it, if you just poo-poo it, then when it becomes insignificant. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm doing my best here. So the bottom line is you need to develop a buyer presentation. And we talked about this back in August. It has to clearly articulate your duties, your responsibilities, what you're going to do. And it is 100% pro-consumer. And when the consumer wins, you win. If you ignore these things, there is not transparency and the consumer suffers potentially. So your buyer presentation equals your survival. You have a listing presentation, right? In the competitive future, you will not be successful without a buyer presentation. We have one on Benchmark Dash that can be customized. And a good prior presentation contains these bullet point items that you see on the screen. And a lot of questions we get are, what do we say? How do we do that? How do we articulate that? Well, the help is at competition.realtor. If you need some help understanding what your value proposition is, if for some reason you can't articulate that already, go there. Read it. Educate yourself. It all starts with a raw list of steps involved in what you do. So sit down, spend some thinking time, yellow sheet of paper, yellow notepad, and a pen. It's a magnificent thing. Write down what you do in each transaction and be able to articulate that. And then take that information and make it pretty. Pretty straightforward stuff. There's several different ways you can do it. Showing you some there on the screen. Charts, graphs, the stuff that I push out, the stuff that corporately we push out, the things that we push out in training, and what's happening in the market. These are all critical components of a buyer presentation. And we have one relatively created that can be brought into Canva and then modified however you want to. You can see there on Agent Resources. Bottom line is, if your sales pitch is not working, just try being yourself. Try having a conversation with yourself on why somebody needs to pay you for what you do. And then write that down. It's that simple. It is that simple. Now, I've been talking about buyer presentations and buyer agency, but you listing agents need to pay attention too. And we heard this one come in. I have a listing agreement that is shown. I have a listing that I've shown to an unrepresented buyer 2 times. They want to make an offer on it. And I just want to be clear that I do this correctly. How do I, or can I, receive the whole commission? Your commission is governed by the listing agreement. That's why that document and the buyer representation agreement are so important. Section 6 tells where the seller agreed to allow you to collect a commission. And that commission is negotiable and variable, and it's a blank that the two of you sit down and agree on what that number goes in there. And section 7 is the part that's shared of that total commission. If a buyer doesn't show up with an agent, section 6 still applies. Okay. Total commission and the shared commission is 100% commission, 100% negotiable, and 100% the seller's choice. So it's equally important to explain to the seller your value proposition as it is to explain to the buyer your value proposition. They are two sides of the same coin. And here's some important points for you listing agents. If a buyer comes unrepresented, you can still write the contract and assist and advise that prospective buyer in almost every way throughout a transaction to help that buyer purchase the agent's listing, so long as the seller's agent remains loyal to the seller and does not compromise or ever work against the seller client's best interests. If buyer comes unrepresented, your status does not need to change to and should not revert to facilitator. Remember the agency rules we talked about earlier? This is where that line on the confirmation of agency says buyer is unrepresented. Check that box. Don't change your status. You're going to get into legal trouble if you try. Even if your seller is comfortable switching to facilitator, again, not recommended. You should never execute a buyer rep agreement with an unrepresented buyer. You can wear only one agency hat at a time. You can never wear two hats simultaneously. You can only represent one party in a transaction under our rules. Otherwise, you're practicing dual agency, which we do not allow. And remember, listing agents, your total compensation is established in Section 6 of the listing agreement, regardless of the buyer having representation or no representation. Total compensation does not change. There it is, Section 6. Several tips on talking to the seller about including something for a buyer agent when you're doing your listing presentation. It'll be a streamlined transaction process. Buyer agents have value. They make the transactions better. They protect their buyer's interests. They reduce the financial burden because they don't have to figure out how to get the buyer agent paid. Simplify negotiation processes. And we all know that there's a question mark there on expertise in our industry. It's getting better. It's going to get even better after this. It's a broader range, broader exposure to the market, and probably going to have a more fair arrival at an accurate sales price as opposed to not paying for a buyer's representation, a buyer's representative. You know, all this sounds like doom and gloom, but I want to point out some numbers here. We've been tracking these numbers since November, when this thing really began to heat up. And I want to give you congratulations. What you see on the stage, on the screen there, not stage, is weekly numbers. We track buyer contracts in total, how many are properly executed, how many are executed the same day as the contract, and how many actually have no buyer rep agreements. So properly executed, what does that mean? That means they're executed at the beginning of the relationship. Maybe you show them one house, maybe you show them two houses, but then you set them down. Let's have a buyer presentation. Let's talk about how all this works. Let's sign this document to formalize our agency relationship. That's properly executed. November, we were at 90.31%. December, we were at 90.6%. So far in January, we are at 96.31%. So kudos to you. You're paying attention. There's still some laggards over here, and I use that as a term of endearment, not criticism, that refuse to get a buyer rep agreement signed. You are violating agency law. And in a not too distant future, this will not be optional. You will either have one or you will not get paid. Okay? So let that burn that in your mind. So how's all this going to work out? Well, right now, these are strictly hypothetical. Status quo right now in the lawsuits is guaranteed shared compensation. You show up, you get paid. That's where we are right now. Potential outcomes, some of which have already happened. Sellers offering agent compensation will become increasingly optional. Potentially, mandatory cooperation goes away completely. Buyer agents can negotiate compensation through seller's agent and or compensation through their buyer client. So that means the buyer agent is going to be directly negotiating with the seller to pay their compensation in some format. We are unsure how that looks like right now. Clear cooperation is almost guaranteed to go away. It was a ridiculous rule then, it's a ridiculous rule now. MLS has become pure data platforms for both agents and the public. And the shared comp field, what's shared with the buyer, what's shared with the facilitator, could disappear entirely from the MLS. And there's a question about Code of Ethics 1616 that says You cannot change offered compensation with an offer. If that field disappears from the MLS, then suddenly there's no offered compensation and everything is negotiable. So you're going to have to learn how to objection handle and negotiate. And you need to ramp up those efforts now. You need to start right now. 4 key components: acknowledge the objective, articulate the value of your services, offer alternatives, and then be prepared to say no. To be successful at explaining your value proposition, you must first learn these basics, and negotiation tactics are going to become more and more important as we move through this whole process. My recommendation is you go read these 5 books. These are the 5 best books on negotiation that I have ever found. And Never Split the Difference is written by an FBI crisis negotiator. He was their #1 crisis negotiator internationally. And it is a really good book. You should read all these. You should read them twice. You should internalize them. You should role play. You should learn how to negotiate, because in the future, showing up and getting a check may be in jeopardy. That's what I'm trying to stress here. And I'm trying to prepare you now so that if that eventuality does happen, you're ready. If it doesn't happen, so what? You're a better business person for it, for having done this, right? All right, enough of that stuff. Let's talk about market predictions now. What is the year of 2024 going to look like? Matthew Gardner is the chief economist for Windermere Real Estate out in Seattle. He's got some good things that he's pushed out, that he's published. He's kind of caught my attention. We are not going to have a housing bubble. Mortgage rates will decline, but not quickly. Listing activity will rise modestly. Home prices will rise, but not much. Home values in markets that crashed will recover. New construction will gain market share. You have a pie that shrinks. This slice down here remains the same. Then that becomes a bigger market share. Housing affordability will get worse. The government needs to continue to take housing seriously, and foreclosure activity will not impact the market. People have too much equity in their homes. Nothing like 2008, nothing like 2007, not even remotely similar. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they are predicting, you can see their existing home sales, mortgage bankers, they are predicting for 2024, 4.3 million. Fannie Mae is saying 4.1. I am going with Fannie Mae. I think we're going to be slightly better than we are today, but not a whole lot great deal. Mortgage rates play into that. You can see this predictor here. The green is in Mortgage Bankers Association. The blue is Fannie Mae. Declining slightly. Steady Eddie wins the race. You're going to see this between 6.1 and 6.8 all year. But in the bottom line, in the grand scheme of things, that's not bad. And the main thing is, it's steady. Again, we showed this chart earlier. It's already there, 6.9. And we're going to bump around in that range all year long. It may drop later on, but again, it's because the base rate uncertainty has declined and the mortgage-backed security investors are looking toward the higher interest rates. It's very attractive. So this chart early on, it's the margins in there. So of 10 banks, 12 banks here, international banks, predicting Fed rate cuts, and the dollar amount, the spread between March and July as the first rate cut, 0.5% versus 2.75%. I think most of them are full of crap except for these guys right here. June, 0.75%. June, 0.75%. July, 0.5%. I think that's where we're going to end up. With the caveat that we have an election year coming up. Weird things happen in an election year. But job claims have been, everybody says, well, things are going great. The economy is going great. The economy is going great. It's heated up. But if you notice the downgrades that happened to the job claims, they've been downgraded every month for the past 12 months. Once they announced it, and then 30 days later, they downgraded. That's happened every month for the last 12 months. And that has only ever happened right before a recession. Something to be aware of. The Fed is acutely aware of this chart you see on the screen right now. The green line is CPA. The black line is Fed funds rate. I'm sorry, other way around. The green line is the Fed fund is inflation. And the other is Fed funds rate. And in 1975, they started cutting rates and inflation went crazy. And the Fed is very acute of that. They cut too early. That inflation will then kick back in and kick our butts. And I was doing business in 1979 and 1980. My dad and I had a printing company. We went to try to get a working capital loan at Dominion Bank. And the best interest rate we could get at any bank was 18.2%. Think about that for a second. That's what happens when you cut rates too fast. Jerome Powell is acutely aware of that. Our friend Elliot Eisenberg agrees with me on a certain extent. In October 22, 63% of economists thought there would be a recession within 12 months. In January 23, that percentage fell to 61%, where it remained in April of 23. July of 23, it fell to 54%, believed there would be a recession in 12 months. October 23, it declined to 48%. That's the first time it dropped below 50%. In January 24, it declined. Only 39% of economists believe there would be a recession in the next 12 months. While that's good news, curb your enthusiasm. In December of 2007, 1 month before the housing recession began, 38% expected a recession. We are right here. Potentially, if the Fed does the wrong move at this particular moment. And the problem we have is an election year and political pressures that come into play. That's why I'm telling you, you need to hold on to your clients with iron talons until they buy or they die. And that's buyer clients, that's seller clients. Hold on to them. Learn how to talk to them. Learn how to explain your value proposition. Because my friends, you are in the catbird seat in this geographic location. The top 10 markets for pent-up housing design in Nashville, Middle Tennessee area is number 7 on that list. That's a tremendous asset to you. And according to Realtor.com, the top 10 states agents are people are moving to. Tennessee's number 5. So you're in a great destination point. But here's your summary. The first 3 to 4 months of 2024 is going to look a lot like 2023, followed by a pretty decent summer selling season because people are seeing and feeling stability. Then we have an election year, which is going to offer some clouds of uncertainty. This is kind of like what happened at the end of the pandemic. Because of this rate uncertainty, people have locked up. And if you remember when the pandemic, everybody just stopped. And what did that do? That was effectively a cork in the demand pipeline. If things can stabilize and we can get past this election, that cork will unleash and we will have a great upswing. I don't know that it's going to be like it was in 21, but it's going to be a great upswing. But my hashtags here are very appropriate because it says winners never quit and quitters never win. So if you quit now, you might have walked out of 1 foot before scoring a goal on the football field, and you don't want to do that. And the competition for spring listings happens right now, today. While it's rainy and foggy and nasty outside, you're competing for listings because guess what? There are fewer listings. The chart you see on the screen, 2017, there were 3.6 listings per agent. Now there are going to be average 2.7 listings, potential listings per agent. So you are here at 2.7. You are half where you were in 2017, a potential business. Go claim that. You have the opportunity and magnificent opportunity ahead to go claim that. If you hone your skills, work on your negotiation capabilities, learn your craft, become a professional business person, and you will be the one standing with your arms wide open in front of an ocean full of money if you play it properly. All right. Thank you for hanging with me today. That was a struggle, but I made it.
Awesome. Well, you're not done yet because we do have a few questions if I can go ahead with them.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Trevor Barber. He asked, I showed my client one of my listings recently. If they've made an offer, I would have had to revert to facilitator according to the agreement. In this scenario, are we looking at legal trouble as well? And how would you handle that?
Well, I don't know what agreement you're referring to that required you to refer to facilitator, but you should never have an agreement like that, period. You are the listing agent. If you are the listing agent, you remain the listing agent. If a buyer is unrepresented, a buyer is unrepresented. As I expressed earlier, you can help them in pretty much every way up to violating your loyalty to your seller client.
Okay.
Beyond that, we'll just have to look at it. And my strongest advice is to talk to your principal broker and let them walk you through that process. But even if you have a listing agreement that says you're going to do X, talk to your broker, because that might be something you shouldn't have done, and they can advise you on that.
Drew kind of chimed in on this one, but I'll go ahead and put it out there since they asked. But Jennifer Whitman asked if a buyer signed rep. If a signed buyer rep of mine likes my listing, best protocol, refer them to an agent for that listing and exclude the address from the buyer's rep with an amendment? ?
How did Drew answer that? You said Drew chimed in on it. How did he answer that?
I haven't got to that. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anybody. Hold on. Drew says having an executed buyer's rep and a listing agreement is a tricky situation. It's best to talk to your principal broker. Since I am your principal broker, I will discuss.
There you go.
Okay. All
Good
right.
job, Drew.
Let's make sure there's nothing else. Actually, that is it. If I missed someone, please chime in again. But I think I answered everything. Oh, there was one Q&A at the very beginning. Rebecca had asked a question. Will the scholarship money be available to current high school seniors for the 24-25 college school year?
No,
Okay.
we don't have it established yet. So that's an easy answer. I'm giving you potentials that will come later in 2024. I believe we will have it established and formally announced later in the year. Until then, I don't have any information on exactly what it's going to look like because we're still, it's raw clay on the table right now.
Awesome. I think that's about it, Phillip. I haven't had anybody else chime in.
Well, that was awesome.
Well, hold on, spoke too quick.
Okay.
The couple. Let's see. Can you tell us info on the United Buyer's Agent class?
Okay, so you can go to Bullseye Hub through Benchmark Dash. There's a little tile there. Click on that, go to Learning Academy. The Learning Academy has the full details on that class. It is a ABR class that United has contracted with a NAR instructor to offer. And they sent out a little blurb, a little email the other day that had a video in it, I believe, that was talking about it. But it is the NAR ABR class, and you'll receive that ABR designation once you take that class. And awesome. I think there is a fee for that, a very small fee of like half of what it normally is. I don't know the exact, but you can go to the Learning Academy through Bullseye, through Benchmark Dash, and get full details.
Awesome. I'm going to do a quick plug for the month of February. Everybody, that is going to be the month of February. We're focusing on our tools and technology. We'll be going over some Bullseye. So it's always on the Friday of the month via Zoom at 10 a.m., hour long. And we'll talk about the Bullseye platform as well. So I look forward to seeing everybody. They will be recorded, but you always get much more and can ask questions if you're actually on the call. So
let me make a plug for that, as I always do, but I want to say it again here, is that now is the time to increase focus on your training. You may not have an opportunity later because of things that are going to happen really fast once these lawsuits really kick into gear. We don't know for sure, but I suspicion that it's a lot of rapid changes. And the more prepared you are now with the basics of the tools and techniques of your craft, the better off you're going to be. That's categorical. So pay attention to your training. Not
Yeah,
just ours, but everybody else's. Look at our stuff first, of course, but the associations have good training as well.
Yeah, we're planning so far ahead that we've already got March. The topic for March is going to be March month marketing madness. And then April is going to be all about April AI technology. So
There you
look
go.
forward to seeing everybody.
There you go. You'll be ahead of the pack. If you sit at home and cry about it, you're going to be out of business. Plain and simple. We love you. We appreciate you being here and look forward to having many long years of these kinds of discussions to help you get better at what you do. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.